It was a chilly Sunday morning in Yorkshire, and the Harrison family home was warm with the smell of toasted bread and freshly brewed tea. Sunlight peeked through the tall kitchen windows, glinting on the polished wooden table. Ethan Harrison, 20, still in his gray hoodie and joggers, stumbled into the kitchen, rubbing sleep from his eyes. At the counter, Mrs. Clark, the family's longtime housekeeper, carefully stacked plates from breakfast. She was a kind woman in her 50s who had been part of the family for over a decade. She had practically watched Ethan grow up. Without a word, Ethan grabbed the carton of orange juice from the fridge and poured himself a tall glass. That he leaned back against the counter, scrolling his phone, barely paying attention. Then it happened. Splash. His elbow hit the glass. It toppled and spilled across the table, dripping onto the floor, and worse, onto Mrs. Clark's apron as she bent to collect cutlery. "Oh. I'm so sorry, Mr. Ethan," Mrs. Clark exclaimed, startled, quickly trying to wipe her apron. But instead of apologizing, Ethan smirked. "Well, maybe if you moved faster, you wouldn't get in the way." The room fell silent. Mrs. Clark froze, hurt flickering in her eyes. She had never been spoken to like that in this house. Ethan laughed under his breath and lazily grabbed a paper towel to dab the table, acting as if nothing serious had happened. Then a firm voice cut through the kitchen. "Ethan James Harrison." Ethan's phone nearly slipped from his hand as he turned slowly to Mr. Harrison, his father, stood in the doorway. His tall frame filled the entrance, and his piercing stare made the room feel colder. "Morning, Dad," Ethan said, forcing a grin. His father's tone was like stone. "Study now." Ethan's grin faded. It was just an accident, now. The study was quiet, lined with dark oak shelves and old books. A grandfather clock ticked softly in the corner. Mr. Harrison entered behind his son and closed the door with a deliberate click. "Sit," he said, gesturing to the leather chair in front of the desk. Ethan sat on the edge, fidgeting with his fingers. "You spilled juice on Mrs. Clark, and then you mocked her. A woman who has served this family loyally for 10 years. Explain yourself." Ethan looked down. I didn't mean it like that. It was just a joke." "A joke?" His father's voice was calm, but heavy with disappointment. "Belittling someone who cleans up after you isn't a joke. It's shameful, and you're 20 years old." Ethan felt his chest tighten. He had crossed a line. "You need to be reminded how to act like a man with respect," Mr. Harrison said. He walked to his desk and opened the bottom drawer. From it, he pulled out the flat wooden paddle, polished, solid, and heavy with history. Ethan's eyes widened. "Dad, seriously?" "Yes." "Stand." Over the chair, Ethan hesitated, heat rising to his face. "I'm 20, then you're old enough to understand that actions have consequences. Now bend over." Swallowing hard, Ethan obeyed. He bent over the back of the leather armchair, gripping the edges with white knuckles. His heart thumped in his ears. Mr. Harrison stepped behind him. "You will take 3.1 for the accident, 1 for mocking her, and 1 to remind you that respect is non-negotiable." Ethan nodded nervously. Whack. The first strike landed squarely across his backside. A sharp sting shot up his spine, and he sucked in a sharp breath. Whack. The second was firmer. Ethan winced, his face pressed into the chair's leather, gripping harder. "Sir, I'm sorry," he muttered. "Not to me," his father said. "1 more." Whack. The third and final strike echoed in the study. Ethan flinched, cheeks burning, not just from the paddle, but from shame. Mr. Harrison placed the paddle on his desk. "Stand up." Ethan rose slowly, rubbing the sting through his jeans, head lowered. "You will apologize to Mrs. Clark properly. And you will scrub that kitchen spotless. Consider this a lesson in humility." "Yes, sir," Ethan said softly. Back in the kitchen, Mrs. Clark was wiping the floor. Ethan walked in, feeling the sting with every step. He knelt beside her, taking the cloth from her hands. I am sorry, Mrs. Clark," he said sincerely. "I was out of line. I'll clean this up." Her expression softened. "Thank you, Ethan. I accept your apology." Ethan spent the next hour cleaning the kitchen, the paddle's lesson sharp in his mind. That day, he learned that real discipline isn't about pain, it's about respect.